Hi, Diana. Welcome to the show. So happy to have you.
Thanks so much for having me.
So you heard a little bit about Diana in the intro, and but I'm going to ask her to give us a little bit of background on, your mission, your why, and what it is you do.
Yeah. So I'm currently a podcast host. I host a show called Optimal Finance Daily, which is a daily narration style podcast where I read articles from popular personal finance bloggers and I offer a little bit of commentary on it. I also produce an event called the EconoMe Conference, which has been described as a party about money or the TED Talks of the FIRE movement. And for those who may not be familiar, the FIRE movement, FIRE stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. And this is a lifestyle movement with the goal of financial freedom. And so this event is kind of a way for us to get together for community and inspiration on this path to financial independence. So that's what I do now. But kind of how I got into it was at 28 years old, I'm living in New York City. I'm 30 grand in debt. I'm just spending beyond my means for no reason other than being completely financially illiterate. And I ended up discovering the FIRE movement through this blog called Mr. Money Mustache, which is the most popular blog within the FIRE movement. And I like describing finding this blog as this like refreshing punch in the face because I had never heard anyone talk about money the way that Mr. Money Mustache did. And I ate that blog with a spoon. I mean, I devoured every single article. I became semi-obsessed with it. And it led me to get out of 30 grand of debt in 11 months. And that like completely changed my life. From there, I started saving about 60% of my income, which just opened up a ton of options for me. So by 30 years old, I'm debt free. I'm saving 60% of my income. I negotiated a remote working arrangement with my employer and moved to Cincinnati. So I went from having an $1,800 a month rent for a cockroach infested apartment in the bowels of Brooklyn to now a $600 mortgage in the most beautiful house I've ever lived in Cincinnati, which is an incredible city. And so, definitely big lifestyle change in reducing my expenses there. I also took a 2-month sabbatical from work to go walk the Camino, which I celebrated my 30th birthday walking the Camino. And this is a 500-mile trek across Spain that would not have been possible for me if I had not figured out my finances. So when I got back from that trip, I bought a house, I adopted a dog, I found myself a Midwestern gentleman, and I kind of settled into this plan to reach financial independence by 40 years old. And I was very much on track to do that. But, I started kind of feeling this urge and this pull to start asking some different questions because up until that point, I had been consumed with reducing my expenses, increasing my income, and increasing my savings rate. So in theory, I could have kept my head down and said, great, I've got a 60% savings rate. How do I increase it to 70 or 80%? And many people pursuing financial independence do just that, right? They're trying to reach their FI number, which is defined as 25 times your yearly expenses in your investment portfolio. Once you reach that, you're said to be financially independent and you can draw down at around 4% per year for the rest of your life, right? That's kind of the goal we're pursuing in the pursuit of FI. And so I could have done that, but I decided that 60% savings rate was good enough. And I started asking some bigger questions like, what do I want to do with my time? Who do I want to spend it with? What do I want to create in the world? And once I started playing with those questions, I started learning a lot about myself and what do I want to do? And I decided that, as much as I was learning about all this on my own and I was reading all the blogs and listening to the podcasts and reading the books, and I really self-educated myself about money. But I started going to events and that changed everything for me. One of the first events that I went to was called World Domination Summit, which sounds crazy, like Pinky and the Brain produces it or something, right? But Mr. Money Mustache spoke at this event. That's how I found out about it. And this event is all about unconventional living. It's not really about money, but money has a part in it, right? So some people talk about money, some people talk about charities they created or athletic feats or just really interesting, non-conventional things that people are doing with their lives. And this event attracts like 2,000 people. It's expensive. I mean, it's like $700 a ticket. Doesn't include airfare and hotel accommodations and food and all of that kind of stuff. And so, but it was worth every penny because when I left that event, I've gone probably 3 or 4 times now. Every time I leave, I feel like my life is so full of possibility. And it's because I'm surrounding myself with people with an incredible growth mindset. And so I saw so much value in that. And that really pushed me to want to create something similar that would give people that feeling about their money. And that's where the idea of the EconoMe Conference was born. I didn't just go to World Domination Summit. There are other events within the FI community like Camp FI. I'm a huge fan of Camp FI. I actually just spent $2,500 buying tickets to all 7 events this year. I'm going to all of the Camp FI events because I love them so much. There's also something called Camp Mustache, which is people who follow Mr. Money Mustache will get together. And so all of my friends today and my circle of influence today are all people who are financially minded, and they're all people that I have met at these events. And that has drastically improved my path to FI. I think community is huge when you're doing something really unconventional. And I cannot understate how important I think community is. So that's really what drives a lot of what I do now is just creating community for myself. And it just so happens to create community for the other people around me that are along for the ride.
Yeah, it's all about really creating that environment for yourself and surrounding yourself with what we call like-minded people. But I actually challenge that and say, surround yourself with people you aspire to be.
Yeah.
And you'll actually absorb their influence. They say you're the combination of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And, that should be a conscious choice in terms of who you're spending your time with. And I love that not only are you a fan of taking part in those communities, but actually created your own to cultivate that. And that's really cool. And I think we need to see more of that because I think, and this is my first question to you is, what are your thoughts on the taboo nature of money and how people maybe are not drawn to a community to talk about these types of things? Maybe they're a little bit more reserved or more private with discussing money. And the thought of attending a conference and talking about this stuff is actually pretty scary.
Yeah. I would say if you're feeling a little timid about it, but you want to challenge yourself and stretch yourself beyond your comfort level, just attend. Just be in the room as everyone else is comfortable talking about money. It's going to have an effect on you. You'll get courage through osmosis, because the fact of the matter is the people that go to these events are very comfortable with talking about money. And so when you surround yourself with those kind of people, you can't help but be influenced by it. And so it may encourage you to start to speak up a little bit. I mean, my opening presentation for the last EconoMe Conference, I really encouraged people to put themselves out there, and it worked. I mean, people felt very safe to share. And I think when you go online, this is a big reason why I created an in-person event and I did not offer a virtual option, and I never will, because in-person connection, you can never replace that. You can try to, have alternative options in times like a pandemic, right? But at the end of the day, interacting online is very different than interacting in person. We have all seen people be very mean to each other through online forums, through Facebook, through commenting on things, right? So if you put yourself out there in an online community, I'm pretty timid about doing that, right? I don't even do it. I mean, I do push myself a little bit because I have to promote this event, but I hate interacting with people online because I think people are pretty mean online. But in person, the kind of person that would step outside their house and go to an in-person event like this is coming with a totally different energy than what you see online. You can be pretty brave behind a keyboard, but no one really treats each other like that in person. And so if you feel timid about online communities talking about money, I would highly recommend that you try an event, an in-person event, because you're going to get a totally different vibe.
I would agree with that. I think that there is something to be said about in-person events and the impact they make. I feel like the connection is just irreplaceable. I agree with you. And I think that we're also, I mean, honestly, after the pandemic, we're all craving that right now. So I think that this is the perfect time to really pursue that and to start putting yourself out there and looking for more of these in-person events to the extent that you're comfortable, of course. But I think that's huge. And I think that there's also, apart from the taboo nature of the money and fears around it, there's also a misconception that you need money to start to become financially independent, that there's this kind of this chicken and the egg thing, right? Where, well, to become financially independent, I either need to be a trust fund kid, have a salary of X. I need to have prerequisites to be in this quote unquote elite area to be pursuing financial independence. And I know that that's a total myth. Could you speak to that as well?
Absolutely. So I used to believe this too when I knew nothing about money, right? I was so focused on increasing my income because I thought income was the pinnacle of like, if I could make six figures, then I'm going to be good financially. I didn't realize that income is a piece of the equation. What matters way more than income is the gap between your income and your expenses and the way you manage that gap, the way you invest that gap, the way you deploy that gap towards debt, the way you save it in an emergency fund, right? Like the gap between your income and expenses is what matters way more than your income. And so that is what we talk about a ton in the FIRE movement. It's all about how do you increase the gap and how do you protect the gap? And I have met so many people, going to these events that don't make good incomes. Like one of my favorite stories is a couple that I met at one of the first events I went to. They were school teachers, in an area that, wasn't very wealthy. They made like 50 grand combined. And they still reached financial independence through real estate, all because they kept their expenses really low. Right. So I think it's yes, income plays a part, but it doesn't play as big of a role that most of us assume it does. It's about the gap. And so if you can manage your expenses and keep your expenses low, and that's the way you increase the gap, great. If you increase the gap through increasing your income, great. But if you increase your income and you also increase your expenses and you don't have that gap, then it doesn't really matter how big your income is because you're not building wealth. So, I think it's really all about money management.
Totally agree. And my philosophy, and you guys have heard this listening, is you can't out exercise a bad diet.
Yeah.
So you can't just work out all day and expect to lose weight if you're eating like garbage or if you're replenishing those calories. So to make progress, you have to manage the gap. And that's what we always say. And that's the same with money. It's no different. It's a very similar discipline where you cannot focus on one side of the equation alone, because also the other thing is when it becomes all about income, the pressure builds to earn more, earn more, earn more. And there's a certain cap on what you can really earn depending on what you're pursuing, right? If you're a W-2 employee, then if that's all it's about, now you're just waiting for that promotion, waiting for that salary, thinking, well, when I get my next raise, that's when I'm going to start. And that's the constant, like, I'll start next Monday, right?
Yeah.
It's always going to be in the future. So let's talk about community a bit more and how you've seen community build results. How has community really impacted folks in the, in their FI journey, and what resources do you think are really useful for people looking to get started?
Yeah. So I'll tell you the first FI specific event I went to was called Camp Mustache. And this was in Washington State. I think I went in 2019. And I had already been ideating the idea of the EconoMe Conference before this. But I went to this event and I ran this breakout session called Attendee Case Studies, where I came up with a template of basically opening up the books. What's your income? What are your expenses? What are your investments today? What's your plan? And we basically had a room of 60 people who half of which had already reached financial independence and were now in their drawdown strategy, right? Or in their drawdown phase of their process. And we all poked holes in each other's plans and gave reassurances. That to me was the most that I got out of it. I opened up the books to people way smarter than me about money. And they looked at my plan and said, you're good. You know, I had all these questions like, what about tax loss harvesting? And am I not optimizing enough here? And what about my asset allocation? And I was worried about all of these things based on my own research and reading. And I got so much reassurance from people who knew more than me or that had more experience in this than me. Same thing when I quit my job almost a year ago. Actually, tomorrow is my 1-year anniversary. And when I was quitting my job, I had like my best friend who I met at the EconoMe Conference that has become a huge part of my life since the first event. She had quit her job in a similar fashion 2 years before me. So she was actually in this unique position to coach me as I followed in her footsteps and, you know, left my job before being fully financially independent. And she went over my spreadsheets with me. You know, she went over my spreadsheets. She looked at my numbers. She gave me the reassurances that actually, you know what, a 2-year runway of cash is good. My projections on, you know, my 1099 income and the stuff that I want to do for self-employment are good ideas. They're going to materialize. I'm not going to bankrupt myself because I left my 6-figure salary job, you know? And so to have friends like that, I mean, it's just huge because like there's so many other people in my life that I would never talk about that decision with. I would never call my mom and say, hey, I'm thinking about leaving my job. She'd be like, no, that's a terrible idea. Don't do it. Don't do it. Right. But you have to kind of surround yourself with people that understand your goals, where you're coming from, you know, the whole financial and emotional aspect of the stuff that we're talking about. It's just huge. It's huge. And then aside from that, you know, I always like to say FI is better with friends. What's the point of becoming financially independent and retiring early if you've got no one to hang out with? You know, when I think about this friend, Erin, who kind of coached me on leaving my job, we hang out every weekend. We go long distance hiking. On like a Tuesday afternoon in the summer, we'll go float down to the Miami River because she's the only other person I know that has full autonomy over her time. And she has plenty of time because she doesn't have a job, you know? And so like, I want to hang out with people like that because what else am I going to do if I'm not working a typical 9 to 5?
Exactly. And time cannot be replenished the way money can.
Yeah.
So it's so important to maximize your time freedom. And I think that in the pursuit of financial independence, what I love learning from those who are pursuing FIRE is their why and what they want to achieve with it, because it's so cool. Because just like you said, with the different achievements you've heard and, you know, your ability to walk the Camino, that's the why, is saying, I would never do that if I had to work a 9 to 5 and ask permission to go on a vacation. And that's amazing. And so what's interesting is, and as we're recording this, today is my last day at my corporate job. And for the exact same reasons. Yeah. Thank you. For the exact same reasons. And I love that because it's true. FI is better with friends. And I actually can relate to the feeling of loneliness I would have if I wasn't friends with other business owners who had done the same.
Yeah.
And if I were still, you know, when all your friends are busy, it's kind of like when you turn 30 and everyone gets married and has kids and like no one wants to hang out anymore. You kind of go through another phase of that if you leave your job and you go the entrepreneur self-employment route. There's a lot of advantages to it, but it can get very lonely. And I think having that support system that also understands where you're at and isn't going to resent you for it, because it can be, you know, it comes with new pressures. But it's a new area to be in. But a lot of people have this jealous tone of, well, it must be nice to have full freedom to do this. And like, yeah, but look what I did to get here. It's not an easy journey either. Could you speak to a little bit of, you know, your FI journey, others that you may have heard about, and talking about kind of the real, you know, it's a lot of saving, but it's a bit of sacrificing to begin with, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people talk about the sacrifice, and reducing your expenses for many people has a tone of deprivation to it. Right. I mean, I was just on another podcast where the guy was talking about, you know, delayed gratification. And if you really want a Tesla, like get yourself in a strong financial position before you buy that Tesla. And my argument against that, I don't believe in delayed gratification. I don't delay any gratification. I have everything that I want, and I want everything that I have. My solution to that is to change my desires, right? And so if I desired a Tesla, I would be a little disappointed that I don't have one. My solution is that I simply don't desire a Tesla. And it's because I understand the hedonic treadmill. I understand that we have been raised, or since we were born, we've been conditioned to be consumers. We've been conditioned to desire luxury. And Socrates said that the key to happiness is not in seeking more, but in developing the capacity to enjoy less. This is a skill set that our society does not teach us. Society does not teach us to enjoy our own company, to enjoy simplicity, to not need a lot of extravagant luxuries to be happy. And so, I look at my life and how simple it is. And the things that I enjoy are being at home with my pets, cooking an amazing meal, keeping my house beautiful, going long distance hiking every weekend, reading an amazing book that I get from the library, being around other people, going to all of these events, right? It costs me 25 to 30 grand a year to fund a lifestyle of my dreams. And most people would think, oh man, like you're eating rice and beans every day. No, I feel like I live the most luxurious life that I want to live, but I don't desire the big house. I don't desire the Tesla. I desire full autonomy over my time. And I just have trained myself to not be so materialistic. And that to me is the solution. If you are changing your behavior and reducing your expenses and not buying things, but you still desire them, then that is not going to be sustainable over the long term, because you're just using willpower, and willpower is a muscle that breaks down. Right? You can only use willpower for so long. If you change your desires and you don't require willpower, now you're onto something, because you're just going to be happy where you are, and it's not going to feel like deprivation. And I mean, that's just kind of how I live today.
Yeah. And actually this reminds me of something Gary Vee talks about a lot. And I don't know if you follow him, but Gary Vee always preaches it's about training your mind to be happy. Like, are you happy?
Yeah.
Are you truly happy if you have a Tesla? Or are you just trying to buy a Tesla to impress people that you don't even like?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's huge. And I think that you hit the nail on the head with the addition by subtraction, and the fact that we have been conditioned. This is a very interesting point that really, I just thought, I had a little light bulb go off and say, she's absolutely right. We have been conditioned to add more. And by adding more, we're somehow adding value to our life by adding and adding and adding. When in reality, it's actually about simplifying and appreciating what we have and pouring more of ourselves into what we have. And I think that's really a key to overall happiness. And I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that financial independence goes along with that, with you have to make sure that you are setting goals that are not only realistic, but also, are they really your goals? Is your goal to buy this, and why? And that's okay if it is. It's okay if that is your goal. It just means that we have to have a plan to get there, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think there's a lot of freedom and peace of mind that comes when your material needs are very low. So for example, I bought a 2010 Mazda 3 for $6,000 cash. I've been driving this car for 4 years. It's a wonderful car. It gets me from point A to point B, but I don't really stress about this car. If it got totaled today, who cares? It was $6,000. I'll buy a new one. Right. I think if I had a really expensive car, I'd have a lot of anxiety about protecting it and maintaining it. And I mean, I still maintain my car, but I'm not stressed about it at all. Even my possessions in my home. I went through an experience when I first bought my house. in 2018 where there was a lot of like break-ins in the neighborhood, and all of my neighbors were understandably on edge, right? But it turned out that it was a group of teenagers that were going into people's homes and stealing electronics. It wasn't like anyone like getting murdered or anything, right? So I wasn't worried about my personal safety, but most of the people around me were worried about their stuff, right? Someone's going to break into my house and steal all my electronics. And I had this moment where I'm looking around my house and I'm like, what would anyone take in here that would really rattle me? Right? Like even this laptop that I'm looking at right now, I spent $600 on this laptop. You know, my TV, I spent like $200 on it. A lot of my stuff is hand-me-downs that I didn't even spend any money on. So did I get an alarm system for my home? No, because I don't think there is anything that anyone can take from me that would really rattle me. And, you know, it's more of the people and my pets and that kind of stuff would definitely rattle me. But that there's a lot of security that comes in that I feel a lot of peace of mind that I'm not worried about my stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that too. It's so important to protect what's important and to really understand the difference between, you know, an inconvenience and something that's really going to affect you, you know?
Totally.
If something can be replenished and replaced, it's okay. Like in the grand scheme of things, you'll probably forget about it one day. It won't be front of mind forever. And I love that you mentioned that. So going back to, I want to ask you a bit more about the EconoMe Conference and how you're building it, you know, who it's for, telling us a little bit more about what it is and how it's designed. I would love to hear more about the conference.
Sure. So the best way to understand it is people have described it as the TED Talks of the FIRE movement. And you can actually go on my YouTube channel and see all of the main stage speeches from the last two events. So just like TED Talks, I offer all of those videos for free. A big reason why I do that is because if you are only interested in seeing those main stage speakers, don't bother buying a ticket, right? I will give that to you for free because I don't think that's the main value of the event. I think the main value of the event is the community. It's the person sitting next to you in the audience that you're going to become best friends with. You know, one of the things that we did at the last event is we had a speed dating breakout session because I am like determined for someone to meet their spouse at the EconoMe Conference so I can crash their wedding because I just think that would be so cool. But really it's about finding your tribe, finding these people that, you know, we've talked about a lot on this show about how the people closest to you influence you. And one of my favorite quotes about community is this anonymous quote that I saw on a influencer's page. I don't know who said it, but I stole it because I've been saying it a lot, but I did not make this up. The quote is, if you look at your inner circle and you're not inspired, then you do not have a circle, you have a cage. And so the EconoMe Conference is an opportunity to form an actual circle and get out of your cage. Now, a lot of people, we've been talking this whole time about how community is important. And I'm sure there are people listening to this saying, well, how do I get that then? And I think the way you get it is by actively seeking it out. A lot of people want to sit around and say, how do I change the people around me to care about money? Well, you can't change the people around you, but you can change the people around you. You know what I mean? So go find new people, and you go find new people by going to events like EconoMe and Camp FI and, you know, World Domination Summit. You do it through, like right now, I'm in a co-working space that I just joined. So talking about finding fellow entrepreneurs, go join a co-working space and surround yourself with them. I've met amazing people just from joining a co-working space. Go volunteer at things like Habitat for Humanity if you want to meet other people that are into volunteering and building stuff, right? I'm also in a mastermind group, and these women that, I mean, it's 8 of us. We meet bi-weekly. It's like the most organized way to approach friendship. You know, we've got an agenda, we've got a note taker, we've got a moderator, and I absolutely love my mastermind group. It's an incredible amount of support from the most creative and generous people I've ever met in my life. And people will go, well, how do I join a mastermind group? You create one, because everyone knows at least one person in their life that inspires them. wherever you are, there is one person in your life that inspires you. And if you can go to that person and say, hey, I'm putting together a group of 6 to 8 people that are going to get together biweekly and support each other in their personal and business goals. Do you have one person that you would invite? And then they have one person that they would invite. And then the next thing you know, you've got 6 to 8 to 10 people that are meeting biweekly, right? And so don't wait around for your mastermind group. Don't wait around for your community. Go out, seek it out, or create it yourself. That I cannot stress enough. Because every time I talk about this, people ask me, but how?
Right. And I mean, I know that we talked about the importance of in-person, which I agree with, but I think that there's no shortage of places online. Even if you wanted to start there, you can find groups for almost anything online these days. And you can start finding your people pretty easily, whoever you gravitate to. And you just have to start with one person you connect with. And like you said, and then ask them who they connect with. It really just starts with one connection. Yep. And it's that simple to start the snowball effect of the community. And I think that is really where the magic happens. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because that was going to be my next question is, so how do we build a community or find our community? And I think you nailed it. So with that, I'm going to actually start wrapping us up with 3 rapid fire questions I ask all of our guests, which I think you'll find fun. And then we want to hear more about where people can sign up for the conference, hear about how they can follow you and get to know you more, Diania. So my first question is, what is one investment that you currently can't live without?
One investment? Like financial investment or any kind of investment?
However you want to interpret that. Folks have interpreted that in all different ways. Although my personal finance folks definitely take it literally.
Yeah. I'm going to say my animals. You know, I don't have kids. I made a very conscious decision. I like to say I'm blessed with no children. I do not want to have children, but my animals are an incredible source of unconditional love that I just don't think I could live without.
I love that too. Cause I mean, anyone who follows me on Instagram knows I'm obsessed with my dog.
Yes.
And it's so true. It's an investment of your time, energy, love, money,
Yep.
Very often money.
Yes.
But it's well worth it.
100%.
All right. What is one thing that you learned about money that turned out not to be true?
Turned out not to be true. I know these are supposed to be rapid fire.
I know. You did mention
to answer.
You did mention one earlier that I'll use as an example of that, which is more income equals easier to save.
Yes, I'll stick with that one.
Yeah. Like I heard that one.
You just always think that you'll figure it out later. Or I guess another thing is, you always tell yourself when you're younger, when I'm making more money, then I'll start investing and saving. And if you don't do it now, you're never going to do it. So sense of urgency is the truth.
Totally agree. And I heard you say that earlier and I'm like, yes, amen to that. I agree. So last question, what makes you feel like a millionaire?
Full autonomy over my time. I literally do anything that I want at all times. And I have no shame in that. It's just incredible. It makes, I mean, you said it earlier, you can always make more money. You can never get back time. And now that I'm a year, like you're just starting your journey of walking away from full-time work. And so I'm a year ahead of you. And I'll tell you that when a year in, I hope that you feel the same way that I do, where I don't understand how I ever had the time for a full-time job.
I already feel that.
Right? Like my life is so full in the ways that I want it to be. And so it's really hard for me to imagine ever going back to a typical 9-to-5.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. I've been building my business on the side for 3 years. And I know I will look back even next week. I will look back and say, how did I do both of these things and not go crazy? Although maybe I have, and I don't realize it. But I couldn't agree with you more on the time component. And you'll be happy to know that on that question, very few people have ever said anything that they bought, anything materialistic, anything related to a status symbol. They've all been along these themes, which is why I appreciate that question so much and hearing that from our guests, because it really does go along with the message here.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
tell us more, Diana, about how folks can stay in touch with you, learn more about EconoMe, learn more about you and what you have going on and where to find you.
Sure. So you can check out my website, economyconference.com. And economy is actually spelled with an M-E at the end, not an M-Y, little play on words there. So you'll see that in the show notes, economyconference.com. You can go there and sign up for the mailing list. That's how you'll kind of keep in touch on what's going on with me, what's going on with the conference. I do all the speaker announcements through that. When tickets go on sale, which by the time this airs, tickets should be available. The next event is going to be March of 2023. And so tickets will go on sale a year in advance. And we are projected to sell out. We had a very healthy pre-sale at the last event. And so definitely want to jump on that. You can also check out, I mentioned earlier, the EconoMe Conference YouTube channel. And that's where you'll see all the videos for the previous events. And that'll help you kind of decide if this is for you, if you like our vibe. I like to say that EconoMe speakers are as entertaining as they are informative. This is not a stuffy financial conference. No one is wearing a suit. We are there to party. And so if you like that vibe, would encourage you to consider joining us. And then you can also listen to me every single day of the year on the Optimal Finance Daily podcast. I like to say that these bloggers that I'm reading their content, they wrote these like amazing songs and I get to perform the covers. And so you can listen to me every day on there. And yeah, I guess that's about it.
Cool. And just remind us, where is the conference going to be held?
Yeah, so it's at the University of Cincinnati.
Okay, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much, Diana, for joining us on the show. It's been wonderful to talk to you and to really uncover another layer of financial independence, which is community. And I think it's such an important topic to discuss. And I just want to express my gratitude for you coming on and sharing your experience with everyone listening.
Thanks so much.
All right. We'll see you next time.